to another episode of Respect the Geekdom presents Geeky Philosophies. Trying to finish off with the Magic the Gathering philosophies on the color pie. This time, we'll be diving into red. Hope everybody's having a good day so far. And here we go. So, the color red, known for fire, lightning, and earth. What makes red so different from the rest of the other colors that we've talked about? Talked about white, talked about blue. What makes red a little bit different? Well, for starters, red most of the time in this color pie involves pretty much emotions and impulse. So, red people or people who are mostly red will focus on pretty much how they feel most of the time. Like if they feel something's a little bit off, if they feel this is the right thing to go. They're pretty much based on their feelings, which also makes red. Stereotypically enough, red is for love, so makes stereotypically red possibly the most people who can be more romantic than most things. But don't let that just shy you from red. That's for certain red types or people who are red based. Other times when there's a red base, there's also a good bit of chaos or pretty much spontaneous action. Sometimes they just want to do stuff. Doesn't matter whether it makes sense or not. Or pretty much when chaos is going on, that's also where they thrive. It's like, yep, this is my element where crazy things is happening and I just do what I need to do. I just go off based on what I feel. That's pretty much a person in red. Red's main basis is pretty much doing what it feels and making sure that it has the freedom to do so. So if it feels like it wants to go out and do stuff, it'll do that. On the vice versa, if it feels that it wants to cause some mayhem, even though it may not be the best thing to do, it wants that freedom to be able to do that. So pretty much if I had to say it, most people who are in the chaotic sphere of the D&D alignment probably have a bit of red in them. And then, of course, in a way, when you really look at it, anyone who is in the Sith code of pretty much the Star Wars side probably has a good bit of red in them. Since pretty much doing what they feel is connected to their feelings, their power, red really focuses on that. Red is pretty much mostly a doer. It'll pretty much act first, think later. Because of this, you'll see this in red cards, such as red is pretty much one of the few cards besides white that has first strike, which pretty much means it deals damage first. But it's also known for it to have the to start the trend of haste, which means when you cast a certain creature, it doesn't have a summoning sickness to where like they gotta wait a turn. If it has haste, it can immediately go into abilities. It can immediately start hitting people as soon as you play it. Red is pretty much known for also combined with those traits, getting stuff done. Like it's if it wants something done, it's gonna do it. Red is also popular for pretty much doing damage, especially direct damage. If it wants to hit you in the face, red will definitely hit you in the face. And on top of all that, because of its impulse on knowing emotions, going off of its emotions, it also understands emotions to a degree to where it can manipulate other people's emotions, get people to trigger. Red is known for, well, blue is known for mostly permanent control, using the mind as like, I'm going to cast this flight of fancy to have you do my bidding. Red is more about encouraging emotion to the point to where they want to do something, to where it's like, you see that person over there? They've been talking stuff about you. What? And because of Red's understanding of emotions, it can pretty much get anyone on its side or potentially show someone's bad side just by pressing the right emotional buttons. And pretty much, yeah, for that, Red's also famous for, yeah, taking control of creatures temporarily based on some kind of emotion, whether it's the thought of betrayal or the thought of anger. Like something that makes target creature angry. It's like, oh, you can join my side for a while and hit your opponent for whatever angry or betrayal like reason. So with that, yep. Emotions betrayal. The other thing that kind of incurs with red, just like some of the other colors, even though we're going down that color, where it's also very used and comfortable with violence. It's comfortable with fighting. It wants to fight. If pretty much I was to put red on a scale of how decent it is in combat, if white is pretty much for the martial arts, and if green is for the bigger fighters with some skill, red would pretty much be the street fighter and pretty much be the berserker of the group. To whereas it can focus on strength, but it mostly focuses on like how its emotions encourage its movement to the point to where like it's either unpredictable or almost scary in some cases. That's where red comes in. Good little bit to go at. So pretty much that's why white and red and green have some synergy, because those three colors love to do a little bit of fighting. They love to pretty much do something, some kind of violence, some kind of martial thing. But whereas white says like you got to train for it, and green says that you have to know just enough, but we're just going to build you up big. Red's just like do what you feel and then get comfortable with your reactions to the point where you're kind of a master of yourself in combat. So after that awesome little tidbit, you can also tell that my red is showing. What are the goods and bad parts of red? What happens if someone has a good balance of red, or if their red is balanced in a good way? Well, if the red's balanced in a good way, then they're most of the time emotionally balanced. Some, if they pretty much are in the good degree of red, they have a high EQ, which is emotional intelligence. They're very emotionally balanced. They're also in the present, which makes them strategic doers. Like I said, red pretty much is the color of impulse, so sometimes they'll do something without thinking about it. But if their red is balanced, they'll do it strategically in the now. They'll focus on the present, but they'll figure out a way how to do their goals step by step or in some kind of way, and they'll go and do those goals. It also does what it feels, or it does what it's in its heart, which in a way means red knows what it wants. If red feels that this is the right direction, it won't budge from it. Red is also known to be sometimes stubborn. So if this is where also red and white kind of share it, because they have stubbornness in their way, in their kind of style of doing things. But pretty much red knows what it wants to do, and it's going to do it. It's also fun loving. If you see some cards in red are based on either some possible thrill seeking or just for the fun of the game. So red is very fun loving. It's very in the present. It's very like, hey, let's do this for the fun of it. Remember, emotions, the feeling. Red wants to do stuff for the feeling. It wants to express itself fully, whether it be both in the good or in the bad. We're about to get into the bad. We got one more for good. And good is pretty much if it's aggressive enough. It's just enough aggressive to where it can go after its goals and be unflinching, or it's aggressive enough to where can defend itself. Like I stated, it's comfortable with violence, but it's not violence seeking. Or in the good side, it's not violence seeking. Now on to the bad side, what happens if someone's red is kind of unbalanced, or if they're kind of like too much red or whatnot, is they could be emotionally unbalanced. They could, be emotional unstable, or they could be pretty much an emotional manipulator to where instead of using it for good, they can kind of pretty much pull the red control for emotions and just be like, work on people's chips on their shoulders just to irritate them. But it could also have an irritation of itself. It could have so many chips on its shoulder, they have to kind of proverbially walk around on eggshells to talk about it. talk to it. Another thing, another bad thing for red is that it doesn't plan at all. It is so in the moment, it'll just be like, I don't gotta worry about that. I'll worry about that when it's here. Which means red in a way may kind of give up its responsibilities to the point to where it won't even worry about that till it is either 1 hour or maybe even a few minutes away from handling that business. Now, some people can be talented in this, but it's some of the people I'm talking about to where they know they need a plan and they just be like, nah, I'm gonna wait until 5 minutes before. Also, with red, pretty much the bad part of red is that because of it does what it feels, that can also stray that line between going into a good direction and also going to the bad direction. That bad direction can also be addiction because, it may get into something that it just feels so good that it just needs it almost constantly. And because of that, some people who are in red can also fall very deep into addiction or could be at the mercy of certain things that can almost be an addictive personality in a way. On top of pretty much with the bad side of red, it could be too random or changing too much. Red could just change his mind. It can do what it can do what it feels so much that for a split second it feels that this is not a good thing, it won't do it. It'll probably change his mind. Now that could also mention into with like, something that a goal that's going trying to go for or a habit is trying to set. As soon as that habit goes from, if it's in the bad side of red, as soon as that habit goes from this habit's beneficial to this habit is boring, it'll just veer veer to the other side and just won't do it anymore. It could also be premises close to the addiction side. It could also be fun loving. It can also be too fun loving or too thrill seeking to the point of unhealthy levels. It may start to do stuff for the feeling so much that once again it'll abandon its responsibilities. But it also could be so fun loving and so thrill seeking that it can also abandon even its sense of life. Like it could, like pretty much, it can think about, it'd be fun bungee cording without the cord. I think that'd be awesome. Yeah, you also could die too. So that's where kind of too much people with red, when they get so much in the thrill seeking, they start thinking of ideas that can be one half super dangerous and the other half is like that risk to reward ratio just just keeps increasing while that rewards. It's like you're not going to benefit much from that. And the last thing, just like it's comfortable with aggression, is that it can be too aggressive. It can get to the point where it is a straight barbarian, to the point where it's it's a hammer and it sees everything as a nail. So it's just like either it beats it into submission or it moves out the way. Which in some cases, like I said, is all right. But once you see everything as a nail, and you're the hammer, that could kind of stray certain friends, that can stray certain jobs, that can stray certain relationships, that can stray certain opportunities away because you, instead of thinking about how to do this strategically, just like, no, I'm just gonna be stubborn, brutal, and keep going until it gives. And in some cases, this can make this barbarians. This could be people who, want to start something because they know they want that fight. They know they want that bloodlust. They know they want that energy to express their dominance in a violent, brutal way. All right. So, what characters and jobs do I feel is pretty much in the red? Well, most notably, actors and actresses. They have to hone in that certain kind of emotion. So, that's some kind of emotion and being in the moment. So I do feel they have some red in them. Speakers. Speakers, I think, especially good speakers, awesome speakers, are very much in the red. A good example of a speaker that pretty much I think utilizes red a lot is one of my favorites, Eric Thomas, or E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher. You can look him up, but just how he speaks, just what he says, eventually gets you riled up to like, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Speakers are very good at rallying people up, of getting people motivated, of getting people to listen, of getting people in touch with a certain emotion to do what needs to be done. So speakers are very good at red. Another one is pretty much martial artists or artists in general. Any kind of artist I feel has some kind of red because they're doing this to express themselves. They want to express this thing as best as possible. So they have to be in tune with their red. And characters that are, I think, red. Human Torch from Fantastic Four. Quicksilver, the one that is from the Avengers Age of Ultron. Very fast, so haste. Doesn't think too much on it. He just reacts. He just does. You know, you see some of him. He has a lot of pretty much red in him, besides the fastness of him. Homer Simpson, believe it or not, I can tell that pretty much he does whatever he feels, even to the point where it's just like, okay, you shouldn't be doing that much. And the last one I'm gonna go for, this is actually a villain, but Fisk, or pretty much Kingpin from the Daredevil series. He has pretty much that cool demeanor, so I sense he's pretty much a good blue or white in him in a way. But because of that red, when he unleashes hard. He goes hard into it. And on top of that, it'll mostly be either off of his emotions or off of casting brutality. Like he just goes in 100% whatever he feels. Like in some cases, his emotions even might increase his strength just because of how connected he is. He likes that. So with that being said, this seems to be a little bit longer than most, but I think it's because that's the red in me. But we'll go ahead and we'll stop it right here. If you like this, please comment, please share, please subscribe. I'll be doing this. Remember, I got pretty much 2 more colors in MTG and possibly 6 more D&D alignments before I move into the other geeky philosophies, traits, personality types, which will involve pretty much, like I said, Star Wars, Hogwarts, and some other ones. But with that being said, after I get down with this, I'll be doing those basics, and then after that, I'll be kind of doing the combinations of what makes this person this color, or what makes this person fit this class or whatnot. With that being said, hope you enjoy the comments. Hope you enjoy the content. I'm almost talking, almost speaking. Hope we're doing well. Keep everything up. You're staying awesome. Be awesome. Hope you enjoy this, and deuces.